So while preparing this talk, you have known a little bit of it. I figured out that three brothers who were debuts of civil had their PhD of this. Had their PhD with civil. Oh, I see. Ramasheshan, then liquid crystal Chandrasekhar, and Panchadhav. Oh, what did you pick up? They're all, they are three brothers, all with their MSc from Nagpur Institute of Physics. Sisters of course. All three of them are great. Yeah. So there was no like that, when you develop the big but competition stuff. You. But he didn't compete that to you other life. Maybe that was consulted to. Okay. So what I have to get first. You're very great.
So give it another 2 minutes and you don't want to wish people to come and do. Yeah, it's very to change your place.
This thing
So the British started to write Punjab University as PhD. But the Pakistanis say he was there. But what you're saying is the university is called Punjab University.
It is time, sir. Hello, I am welcome to another session of appoint. And now today we have very fortunate Professor Lars, spent a lot of years here. Professor Grover is here to give things. I request Professor Sunil to give us one introduction to this.
Actually, to this audience, I don't think Professor Grover requires any introduction. Other than I can sort of cite a few tidbits of history with him. Professor Grover joined TIFR in 1972 as a research scholar. And a few years later, a scheme was started in TIFR by Professor Srikantan, where people were inducted to be eventually absorbed. And the first batch was in 1975. One of them is actually online, Acharya and Sudhakar, they joined. And I joined the next year in 76. And 77, after 2 years, is when the people were being absorbed as regular academic staff. And I think Professor Grover was also among that first batch of people. So he had joined earlier. And in fact, we were just talking about it during lunch break, that period of 3 years, almost 40 to between 40 to 50 people were absorbed. They formed the backbone of experimental physics program in TIFR for a whole generation. And of course, Professor Grover, as you all know, is a very special person. The amount of energy he has is seen to be believed. There is no problem that he doesn't have at least 2 or maybe 3 solutions, and he will find a way to implement at least one of them. And that has been his trademark. And what has always impressed me is how well versed he is about not only institute, our rules, regulations, rights of people, and how strongly he feels about any kind of injustice that happened anytime. I have been witness to it for almost 50 years, and he has been someone that I always look up to. And recently, after our retirement, our interaction continues. And after my recent election, first he congratulated me, and then he gave me a long list of jobs that I should be doing. Okay. So, and of course, you cannot say no to him, right? He's someone who always has interest of scientific community, youngsters, and so on in mind. So it has been a privilege knowing Arun. I call him as a friend. So
Force of nature.
that is not my word. That is words of Professor R. Vijay Raghavan. He's a force of nature who cannot be stopped. Thank you. Arun.
Thank you, Sunil, for a very generous introduction. And at the outset, I wish to acknowledge Lead NSF, Mr. Shankar Ghosh, and of course Parag, for accepting my offer to give today's colloquium. I have given many asset colloquia after I left the ISR. I used to give asset colloquium earlier, but I have given more number of asset colloquium after leaving the ISR as a VC in the year 2012. So, of course, I gave a talk in at this two-day meeting, Landmarks of TIFR, where the title given to me was TIFR History and India's Enactment. So at that time, I described how TIFR came into being after Baba got trapped in Bangalore in the year 1939, when he was on a summer vacation, and the war, Second World War, was announced by the British that we are on war with Germany, September of 1910. And then we couldn't go back. And I give the background what the scene in India was in 1939 and what led to proposing whatever Baba proposed from 1942. So, in some sense, it covers how things have developed in India after the Second War. But India has had universities starting from 1857. But I think nearly for about a century we had science education going on in a formal sense. So Sunil got me elected as a member of the Commission on Physics Education in the year 2022. So I said, I need to go off physics education research started. Because if somebody asked me in an international forum, I should equip myself. So that I started to read backwards. So whatever I have learned over the last 50 years, I'm going to share it. So I'm going to unburden whatever I have learned for the last three years. So let's go. And I have called it self-styled commemoration of completion of 80 years of TIFR. I am not alone in doing this. Yesterday I went to the office of the TIFR Endowment Fund and they showed me the cup they have brought out, which said TIFR 80 years, 1945 to 2025. So if Endowment Fund is doing it, and I was a part of the creation of Endowment Fund after the Porter Committee report, so I found it very satisfying. So okay, let's go. So the first education policy was initiated by the East India Company via what is called a Wood's Dispatch. Sir Charles Wood was the chairman of the Board of Control, not cricket, but Board of Control of Education for the East India Company. He was a former Chancellor of Exchequer, so no doubt the trading company employed him for their education. So anyway, by 1849, East India Company was now extending from Peshawar to Burma and from Kashmir down to Sri Lanka. And they gave a policy for education of India, the first education policy for India. It said many things. And as a follow-up of that policy, three universities came up. They asked for only one affiliating university to affiliating all the colleges, but actually three universities came up in the three presidencies of it. Each presidency worked independent of the other. Each of them had a governor. The governor in Bengal was called Governor, but they operated independently. So they couldn't even resolve things, even in the East India Company. They had to have separate universities. So the nuclei of these three universities were the government institutions. Okay, Calcutta had a Hindu college started in 1917, but it became a presidential college after the wars was that. Madras had a presidential college. And in Bombay, there was this Elphinstone College, which was established by the English. So these three were the nuclei of these three universities. There were no university campuses, and these universities essentially only affiliated the existing college. Okay, but now they have to strengthen the colleges because now they are the nuclei of the university. So they started to appoint good teachers. So science teachers also got it. And they were employed by the East India Company. The teachers are coming from England. So they had to pay reasonable salary. Not the same salaries as the ICS officer, but reasonably good salary. Those salaries attracted good teachers from. So these teachers did do a good job of teaching the natives. But they did research as well, but that research was personal to them. They did not involve natives into the research. By and large, they did not involve natives into the research. So the natives graduating to the research stage, that happened rather slowly.
That's why I think, but was Napoleon already born at
Macaulay was 1830.
so much before?
Much
We
before.
are already initiated.
Macaulay has not initiated it. Macaulay just said there were colleges and they were giving, each college was giving the education on its own. One college did not have anything to do with the other one. There was nothing like a college entrance exam which the university conducted. There was no threshold to enter a college. The college is located in Madras, the college is located in Shivpur, a college is there in Calcutta, there is a college in Kottayam. Each college admitted local students graduating from the local high schools as they wish. Of course, schools try to maintain some kind of a level. Your schools gave you end of the school degree, which was comparable to the then ICS, Cambridge student. So there was English system in place, and the colleges also had video instructions, more or less English. So there was some built-in threshold to get in the college, but not a regulated threshold to build. The regulated threshold to enter a college comes in the form of a college entrance exam conducted by the three affiliating universities in their respective domains. So the college entrance exam eventually will become the school board examination. And the school boards get created only in the 20th century, not in the. For instance, the Calcutta University conducted its last college entrance exam in the year 1909, and Eknath Saha and S.N. Bose wrote that 1909 exam. After that, it is the board exam. After that, it is not that university is conducted college. So there is no college entrance exam. There is a matriculation examination which the universities conduct, but that's not called the college entrance. So, okay. So this is cover page, not the cover page, the index of this book, which was brought out by Indian National Science Academy on its 75th year. So it is a collection of biographies of 40 scientists of yesterday, people who were no more in 2009. So this compilation of these names was done by Gyan Narlikar, Madhav Garkir, and our own people. So you can see, so there are 40 scientists, and out of these 40 scientists, 16 of them are physicists. Top of the list, of course, is J.C. Bose, born in 1858, who comes back and becomes a teacher in Presidency College in 1855. Gets in 9 years to get a place to set up a lab. And his first research publication comes out only after he has set up a lab in 1840. His first publication is. Next on the list is Ruchiram Sani, who is a contemporary of J.C. Bose, born in 1863. But he was known more as a popularizer of science. He wrote textbooks for intermediate and BA level of chemistry. But he wrote his first paper only in the year 1913, when in 14 he had gone to Germany and then was in Rutherford's lab at Manchester, stayed there for 1 year, and that is where whatever work he did, it came in the form of 2 solo author papers in philosophical magazine in 1950. First Indian to have papers in nuclear physics in philosophical magazine with Ruchiram Sani, courtesy Lord Rowe. Next up is C.V. Raman. Raman wrote his paper, first paper when he was a BSc student at Presidency College. Then he becomes a civil servant, reaches Calcutta in 1907, discovers the Indian Association of Cultivation of Science close to its home, starts using the lab of IACF, and starts publishing papers from 1908 on.
Ruchiram Sani was there in laboratory
Yes.
in India, right?
Yes, he is the guy who set up a workshop in his house to manufacture all these instruments needed for school physics and chemistry. Okay, so he is a science popularizer. He is the one who was the secretary of the Punjab Science Institute, which was on the lines of Indian Association of Cultivation of Science.
Who mentioned that he made such a good instrument, people thought it's a copy of the British.
Yeah, they used to think this guy puts a label.
Yes.
He imports things, but puts his label and so on. So he challenged them that this is what it is. I will, you buy my instrument. Take it from me, I'll give you at half the price. You're importing, if you think I am importing and I'll give you at 50% of the price. The instrument that I am manufacturing myself.
One day she do a lecture on Ruchiram Sani. Next lecture.
Okay. Absolutely. If you want an asset colloquy of Ruchiram Sani, call his grandson Ashok Sani, who is a very celebrated geologist stationed at Lucknow. He is exceedingly good speaker, and it is he only who introduced me to Ruchiram Sani and gave me access to. So long as Ashok Sani is alive, I think you should listen. You should listen to a person who is has the legacy. He is a real grandson. His father was M.R. Sani, a geologist, who was the foundation fellow of Indian Academy of Sciences of 1934. Okay, so this is a list. Rest of it you can see, S.K. Mitra was a student of Raman, Mahapralab was independent of Raman, but then it is Saha and Bose, Krishnan was student of Raman, then it is Baba and Sarabhai, Chandrasekhar was debut of Raman, G.N. Ramachandran was student of Raman, Harish Chandra was student of Baba, A.P. Mitra was student of S.K. Mitra, then this is liquid crystal. So these are the list of physics people, but all these things, you can see these physicists, they published most of their work in that. But yes, actually after most of it, other than Raman, rest of it is after 1970, after the first one. So fine. As I said, that there were English science teachers in the colleges who taught science to their natives, but they did personal research. So I have just picked up some examples because I was fascinated with the examples, they may be more. This first is H.F. Blandford. He was a geologist who had trained in England and then also in Germany. He was the first science teacher, physics and chemistry he taught at the Presidency College from 1862 to 74. Okay. And he also, so while he was a science teacher there, he was fascinated with all the cyclones which come in the Bay of Bengal. So started to keep track of those cyclones and they come, all the weather changes. So he set up some observational stations all along the coast in Bengal. And that is the start of meteorology in India. And then he becomes the founder of the Indian Meteorological Department. Now he collects his data and he publishes it. To publish that data, he also created a journal. This is the Journal of the Indian Meteorology, Report of the Meteorological Reporter. This is where he published. And on the basis of his publications in India, he surely became an FRS in 1880. And he is also the guy, meteorological observations to other observations. And he is responsible for this observatory in Madras, and which eventually becomes the solar observatory in South, and eventually also the Indian Institute of Astrophysics in practice. The same platform chat is there. He has a role there. The rest is Alexander Pedler. He succeeds Bradford. He's a chemistry guy. So he is the next person at the presidency college. So Ruchiram Sani had trained in his lab for his MA in chemistry. And this guy had become principal of presidency college. Then later on, he was the vice chancellor of this Calcutta University, and he was elected FRS in 1892. Then he was also 19. So you can see, if he is in FRS, he was publishing papers. In fact, whatever data Ruchiram Sani collected for the False Point cyclone, huge amount of data, this Pedler guy published it only he doesn't even acknowledge it. But he did groom Ruchiram Sani. You can't say that Ruchiram Sani did learn things. Ruchiram Sani had also worked with Bradford because Ruchiram Sani was the first native to be employed as an officer in meteorological department. And that is how he was posted in Calcutta for training. That is when he did campaign as a private candidate. And long story, but that's again. Next is, I have picked up is Moat Jones because you find a reference to him by Bhatnagar. So this guy was appointed professor of chemistry in Government College Lahore in 1906. First science teacher in Government College Lahore was J.C. Oman, who was an Indologist. He also had a trained scientist. He learned science and taught science. So he is the one who groomed Ruchiram Sani. And because he was the first secretary of the Punjab Science Institute. Ruchiram Sani was the joint secretary of that institute. So you can find books written by J.C. Oman on Hindu religion and all sorts of odd things that went on in India in the 19th century in the name of religion. There are 6 books or 7 books. You can buy it in Amazon even today. They are all illustrated by his great grandson. And that is all they are selling it because I also bought one of them. So anyway, so this Moat Jones joins in 1906, and that is when the teaching in physics and chemistry was separated. Till then, everything was science, physics, chemistry all together. He stays for only 6 years, then he returned to England, joined chemistry department of Imperial College, and rose to be the vice chancellor of the University of Leeds. So, very competent people came to India because salaries were good. Then there is Stephenson. He was an army officer. He was a surgeon in the army who was sent as a professor of biology to Government College Lahore in 1906. He built the teaching labs in Lahore, and he returned to UK in 1920 to become a faculty in University of Edinburgh, and he also became a FRS in 19. Again, an example of a competent person who was there as a teacher. Then it is Evershed, John Evershed, famous Evershed effect is there. He worked in the solar observatory, and when it got established in Kodaikanal, and he was elected FRS in 1950. And he had offered, in fact, a job to P.S. Krishnan to work as his assistant in the Kodaikanal office. Krishnan did not accept this, chose to go to work for his research with C.V. Raman after the election. Great. So, few examples for you. So, when do things change? When do natives get into as teachers and researchers? That happens after the year 1904, when the Indian Universities Act was brought in for the then 5 universities of India. Universities were asked to appoint professors and motivate students to go for research, learn skills, and become incubated. Don't ask for jobs. We don't have jobs, but do something. So this is a slogan that Lord Curzon gave in 1904. But Lord Curzon gave no money to these universities. Also, he said create university faculties, university department, but no money. All that he said, native science teachers can go to England on a 2-year study. They get full salary. They can get an English degree. So the gap between the European teachers and the Indian teachers is bridge. Otherwise, they had MAs from India. They said, okay, go and close that gap. So that he allowed. Then small grants were made available to invite eminent people from all over the world, namely Europe, England, and America, to spend winter months in India, cold months in India. Because everything is closed there, to take a ship, whosoever can come. And if you have traveled by ship, you might as well stay here for a month or two and then go back. So this is the GYAN 1.0. They came here, they interacted with the college teachers. Those who could not take study leave, they can interact with these and upgrade them. This is all that Lord Curzon allowed. So Smithell was an FRS who came to Lahore. Compton also came to Lahore. Also visited Saha at Allahabad. Sommerfeld came in 1928. They were Sommerfeld visit after the Raman discovery of Raman effects. Then Sommerfeld came. Yes, Astronomer Royal Eddington came also during it, etc., etc. So Compton, during his visit in 26, had given a lecture in Royal Institute of Science with Baba and attended. So that is Baba's source of inspiration to be a physicist. That GYAN 1.0 Compton's in it. So mentors of research in Calcutta, because Calcutta is a place where all this research starts in a big way. And there is a book which came only 2-3 years ago. I have a copy of this book. It's a very interesting book. It is called History of Calcutta School of Physical Science. Okay. So it is a recent book, but now you can rely on it because there are lots of references given to it. Then there is another book, Rajinder Singh is on the line. This is Rajinder Singh's book, Dazzling Dawn, Physics Department of Calcutta University, 1916 to 1937. So these are 2 recent books. Okay, so with references, so task is easier because very active. So, right, the mentors of research at Calcutta is P.C. Bose, physics, P.C. Ray, born 1861. So, he came back after doing a tripos. He had gone to study medicine, but long story, he does a science tripos, come back as a physics teacher in presidency. P.C. Ray had gone to Edinburgh. For a year, he had been taught by Butler. He does a PhD at Edinburgh, comes back, gets a job at presidency, but at half the salary of J.C. Bose. J.C. Bose also was given only half the salary, but he fought and managed to get the salary to those of the Englishmen. P.C. Ray doesn't succeed. He had a higher degree, but he did not succeed. So for half the salary, he was a chemistry teacher. Okay, then there is this Ashutosh Mukherjee, famous Ashutosh Mukherjee, the father of Shama Prasad Mukherjee. So he had done an MA in mathematics as well as an MA in physics in 1885 and 1886 from Presidency College. He was a topper in both. He wanted a job, they will not give him a job because he doesn't have any degree. Then he had to teach in some other college for a while. His father was a lawyer, he passed away. His brother was studying law, who passed away. So he started to study law because he has to inherit that law form that his father was. So he becomes a lawyer, famous lawyer, works under very famous rich lawyers of Calcutta, and eventually becomes a judge. He was a Senate member of the Senate of the Calcutta University. So when Lord Curzon brought in the Indian Universities Act and said, motivate research, this, that, and so on. And he was trying to regulate colleges. So the college enrollments went down because he was trying to regulate colleges. They were being strict. A lot of criticism of Lord Curzon. So at that stage, Ashutosh Mukherjee, Gopal Gokhale in Bombay, they were criticizing Lord Curzon. So Lord, in Calcutta, Ashutosh Mukherjee, as a Justice Ashutosh Mukherjee, was pulled up from the High Court and made the VC of Calcutta. So it was a 2-year term. He served for 4 2-year terms, 1906 to 1914. The 1904 Act allowed, they didn't give money, but universities could raise endowments to meet their needs. So Ashutosh Mukherjee raised money from his rich lawyers, friends, and became chairman of the trustee of those endowments. And he was a VC, he got it passed on the certificate that only natives will be appointed as professors against that endowment. So the Englishmen anywhere were getting good jobs and good salaries. It is the natives who are not getting. So he says natives will get jobs from these endowments. And these endowments also, if there is a professor's salary, there is also salary for 4 or 5 people to work as research assistants or research associates. So there is one professor and money for also some people to work with those professors. So this became a kind of a recipe. So by that time, 1906, he becomes a VC, 1907, Raman is there, 1908, Raman starts research, Raman is publishing these things. So in 1930, when he had raised the money from Taraknath Palit, he offers a professorship to J.C. Bose on his retirement and also a professorship to Acharya Prabhu Chandra. J.C. Bose refuses that his offer because he wanted to set up his own institute. So that professorship refused by J.C. Bose, Ashutosh Mukherjee cleverly offered it to C.V. Raman. And now he is after C.V. to be a full-time professor at Calcutta, Palit professor of physics. But his term comes to end in 2014. Before his term ended, he gave a proposal and got it passed that a College of Science will be created, which will be an affiliated college of Calcutta University, parallel to the Presidency College. This is the origin of the Postgraduate College of Science of Calcutta. So there, it takes 2 years to build that college. So by 1916, the college is up. By 1916, S.N. Bose and Meghnad Saha had done an MA in mixed mathematics. Ashutosh Mukherjee did an MA in physics and MA in mathematics. He created a discipline called mixed mathematics, which doesn't exist in the world. So it's a mixture of physics and mathematics. S.N. Bose is the topper and Meghnad Saha was second. So this guy, by the time the college building got over, he had convinced C.V. Raman that he would quit his job. So C.V. Raman accepts Palit professorship at Calcutta University in 2017. He gets his university toppers, makes them research assistants like against that endowment. So in College of Science, he has a C.V. Raman as a professor and his university toppers as teachers in physics, chemistry, biology, I mean, whatever it is. He has all these university toppers for last 3-4 years. They have temporary appointments. They get 250, 200 rupees. Not bad by that. So he had these temporary teachers. And eventually, norm emerges that you take a professor who is a professor at head and add to it some lecturers who are kind of temporary lecturers who will do research while they are teaching. So this is the model how to create a university department for the other universities. And this is what Malviya adopts, because PHU comes into being in 1960. So Malviya offers C.V. Raman a professorship at PHU. By that time, he had not accepted the Pallas professorship, but he had given the commitment to join as a Pallas professor, so he doesn't go to PHU. He remains at Calcutta. But he was a visiting professor at PHU. So when Raman gets the Nobel Prize, it is a Pallas professor at Calcutta and visiting professor at PHU. All right, so this Ashutosh Mukherjee, since he could not get to do research, even though he had written some tens of papers in mathematics in 1890s, he wrote many papers, but nobody recognized him as an academics in mathematician. So, but he is the one who nurtured everything. Okay. So, fine. So, Ashutosh Mukherjee, I have already told you what this thing. So, this part I have already gone through it, and I told you that success of Ashutosh Mukherjee in creating his department, this is what everyone followed. Banaras came up in 2016, Dhaka was in 22, Allahabad was a university from 1877, but there was nothing like a university. There was a Muir College, government institution in Allahabad. So Calcutta University decided a smart thing. They adopted that college as a constituent college of science. So in the physics department of that college becomes a university department of that college. And now this university is funded by the government of United Provinces in today's UP. So now there is competition. So they bought Meghnad Saha from Calcutta University to Allahabad. Meghnad Saha was a Khera professor of physics at Calcutta University, at 2/3 of the salary that Raman got as a Pallas professor. Meghnad Saha wanted more, not salary more, but he had no other preference attached to it. To publish papers, you needed money even at that time. You have to pay to an astrophysical job. Raman and Saha had lost credit because he could not pay for a paper at astrophysical job. They were very unhappy. So as soon as the Allahabad University made an offer that they'll give him much of a salary plus a little bit of extra money to engage in his research, he quit Calcutta and came over to Allahabad. But this was the professor and head. You have a professor and head. Okay, everything revolves around it. And then there are these toppers of the university, you employ them, and this is how you kickstart the department. So this is a recipe. Same thing happens, Voltaire, Mysore, Lucknow. Lucknow was 1922. Nagpur anyway is much later in 1930, but this is the recipe.
So all these other universities, the British government was funding, right? Who was funding these other universities?
See, Mysore is Maharaja of Mysore. So, Visakhapatnam, Voltaire is again by the British, because at that time there was nothing like an Odisha government or Odisha did not exist, nothing of the sort. Vijayanagaram, of course, Maharaja had given money to he had given money for building the laboratory at IACS. Mahendra Sarkar had got some money from Maharaja of Vijayanagaram because he had cured him for some rare illness by his homeopathy. So the lab at IACS was all funded by Maharaja of Vijayanagaram. It's possible that local Maharajas might have given some money.
Like Baroda University.
Baroda is again the princely state. But Allahabad was not princely state. It is that lieutenant governor of United Provinces who gave the money. Because there are these governors. Everybody else is a lieutenant governor. Punjab had a lieutenant governor. United Provinces also had a lieutenant governor. So, okay, this is one thing Venkatraman writing in the biography of this thing. He says, so now all these kids have got PhDs and DSc. Meghnad Saha had a DSc given to him in 1919 because he wrote it. 8 papers only. One of them was co-authored with both, so the rest of them are single author papers. But he got university. So Raman is a college professor, but he doesn't have a PhD. So Ashutosh Mukherjee, when he comes back in his second avatar as a VC of Calcutta University in 1921, he proposes and gives Raman an honoris causa DSc in 1921. So Ashutosh Mukherjee, he says he's striking university, blah, blah, blah. He says we have set up a vigorous school of physics for the first time in the history of our university, the history of India. So that was one addition. So this is that, this is why it is history of.
In fact, C.P. Raman did not have PhD, nor did his son. Rather, only PhD.
Only PhD.
Both of them.
So, okay, so this is the history. So these two books I have already shown you. So, Venkataraman further writes, that on an average, Raman had 20 researchers with him. That 20 researchers. He had his own journal because Ashutosh Mukherjee started a journal for him, Indian Journal of Pure and Applied Physics. And at the age 50, this is a book brought out in the year 1938. So, 100 scientists had worked with Raman up to 1938. Of course, he started in 1908, so 30 years is a long time. So, okay, and he had these were in 60 institutions in 30 cities. So you see how they are disseminated also. And they are teaching in colleges, university departments. Most of them were either in Indian Railway Service or in the Indian Meteorological Department. These were the only two Sarkari departments which gave officers job. And very famous students of Raman were all in the Meteorological Department. K.R. Ramanathan was there, J.C. S.K. Banerjee was the first Director General of IMD, first Indian native to be the Director General of IMD. He was also a Raman student. He had a DSc. He was the favorite student of Raman in 1980. So 600 papers he published, huge productivity, but he was hugely supported. I mean, that kind of a support no Indian scientist has got. You need an Ashutosh Mukherjee to back you up. So, students of Raman, everybody knows about Krishna.
Yes.
No, sorry. Okay. So Raman had many students in Calcutta. Okay. K.S. Krishnan was one. I have not put down the names of Raman students at Calcutta. There are just too many. He comes to Bangalore, the process continues. He continues to have, because he is head of the physics, he is the founder of the physics department of IISc. He is the director of IISc. So that exercise continues. So I have just made some famous students of Raman at Bangalore. First of them is K.S. Krishnan, R.S. Krishnan. That was K.S. Krishnan, is R.S. Krishnan. So there is a Krishnan effect by his name, not by the K.S. Krishnan. There is the R.S. Krishnan effect. And this R.S. Krishnan, it is BA in 1933. And Ramana shifted from Calcutta to Bangalore only at the end of 1932. So he is one of his first students. Okay. So this guy gets a PhD working with Raman. Now Raman sent him to train as a nuclear physicist in England. And that is before even Bhabha gets trapped in this thing. So he has been dispatched to learn accelerator, nuclear physics using accelerators. Okay. So he does another PhD with Norman Feather. And then he returns to IISc in 1942. And he is the one who succeeds Raman as the head of the department once Raman retires in 1948. Raman was born in 1888. Okay. So then he is the head. Yeah. Krishnan also is very prolific. So many people do 25 PhD students did PhD with him. So R. Srinivasan, our famous R. Srinivasan of low temperature physics, who so many students are a part of that year. So Nanti was a student or so R. Srinivasan was this Krishnan student. E.S. Rajgopal was also Krishnan student. Ramachandran was Raman's student. After Ramachandran, BSc 42, joins Raman in 44. If he did 3 years, he then gets a DSc, goes to Cambridge, comes back and is professor and head at Madras University. Ramsheshan was a nephew of C.V. Raman. Joins after Ramachandran. Okay, he came from Nagpur, does so many things. He was at the IIT physics department head. Then he was later on also director of IIT. Then it is A.J. famous A.J. Raman, who also wrote the biography of Raman, C.V. Raman, famous boy. He has visited TI, but Raman was at Bell Labs, samarium sulfide mixed with it. So A.K. Ramdas, his father, L.A. Ramdas was a student of Raman at Calcutta, who joined the Indian Meteorology Department. And he was at Pune for long years in the meteorology department. A.K. Ramdas also did. His son also did PhD with Raman. This is the liquid crystal, this thing. Panchratnam was also a student of Raman. Panchratnam was a very space thing. So Panchratnam, Chandrasekhar and Ramsheshan were 3 brothers, sons of this thing, sister of Raman. So, who were the teachers who taught him along with Raman? And he was the college professor. So this is the first physics teachers for the first batch of MSc at the Science College. Okay, in addition to Bose and Meghnad Saha, there is S.K. Mitra, who was there listed in the 40s. Okay, then you have S.K. Banerjee, who was the first director general. So all these people, and this is the kind of subjects they taught. So they taught these subjects and also carried out research in areas related to these subjects. Got their PhD, some with Raman, some rest of them on their own. So I'm very fond of this photograph. This is just 10 people, all born just 1893-94. 8 of them are 93-94. Added to it is Krishnan, few years later, and S.K. Mitra a few years later. Okay, this is a bunch of people who have grown up together, but this is not a unique phenomenon. Every few years you will have a bunch of this. So these bunches of good people would have existed all through up to the Indian independence. That is why when India becomes independent, you have at least few hundred scientists were available to propel the agenda of development of India. Because Bhatnagar also is in the same batch. Bhatnagar is born 21st February 1894. So Bhatnagar and this J.N. Mukherjee and J.C. Ghosh, they were students together of F.G. Donnan in London from 1919 to 1921. So this is Raman gets his FRS in 24. His first visit abroad, he meets Compton in US. So then, no wonder Compton comes to India in 1926 and he comes via Calcutta. He doesn't come via Bombay or Madras, no, he comes via Calcutta because he has to meet Raman. So this is Summerfield visiting Calcutta after the Raman's effect gets discovered in February of 28, and this is sometime in August of this thing. Okay, so Meghnad Saha does a BSc 1919, goes to England, goes to Berlin, works with nuns, comes back as a Khera professor, leaves Calcutta, comes to Allahabad. So Allahabad is a professor at SEC. So who are his students at Allahabad? So there is a school of physical sciences in Calcutta. Now more schools have to come up because there are these giants are there, now professors are there. So Meghnad Saha. Kichlu is his first from Bishop Kichlu, who was an MSc from Lahore. Kashmiri Pandit from Lahore goes to do PhD with Saha. Okay. So Kichlu is there, and Kichlu eventually succeeds K.S. Krishnan as a director at PL in 1961. He was also, after the partition of India, he is a professor at the university. I don't know whether Nagarajan remembers him. Was he there?
Who?
Kichlu.
Hey,
Uh,
Krishna Bhajan.
right. So Kothari. Kothari was a MSc student of.
Was a great teacher.
Okay, he was at Allahabad. He is dispatched off to England and to do PhD. And Bhaba, Kothari, Saradaman Chawla, R.M. Chaudhary, and one more famous person was there. 5 of them were together at camp. Bhaba knows Kothari, and they were together at camp. Chandrasekhar, of course, was also at camp. So Bhaba, Chandrasekhar, Kothari, Saradaman Chawla, R.M. Chaudhary, they are all together at Cambridge working with a similar set of books. So,
Later again was nephew of
yeah, CVR.
Teacher there. What do that?
So Kothari, with Toshniwala, the
Jack of Fox.
vacuum pump, he was also student of R.C. Majumdar, also wrote a paper with Saha. Okay, goes to Germany for a PhD, returns to Delhi University as a professor via TR.
He also practiced.
Huh?
He also practiced.
Yes, he was a professor, he was a postdoc in TR, but Viva Chaudhary was there.
The problem was they were so busy with the UGC and so on. They attended only once in a while. Very difficult to have a regular.
But these are, Nag Chaudhary was also at Allahabad. Nag Chaudhary, Saha takes him back to Calcutta as a college professor, dispatches him to Berkeley, okay? Where the cyclotron was, the thing. Okay, so he goes there and comes back. So he succeeds Meghnad Saha as a director of Saha Institute. He also becomes a college professor. Then, long story, he serves also as a VC of Jawaharlal Nehru University as late as 75 to 79. Okay, so this is Meghnad Saha. This is a famous mathematician, A.C. Banerjee, who was the VC of Allahabad University. So if there is an Ashutosh Mukherjee, there is an equivalent of that also in Allahabad University, who is encouraging all this. So this is Kothari. Side now, Krishnan. Long story, Krishnan goes from Calcutta to Dhaka, Dhaka to returns to Calcutta after C.V. Raman leaves Calcutta. He is the first Mahendralal Sarkar professor. So when Saha leaves Saha leaves Allahabad and comes to Calcutta as a college professor, there is a vacancy in Allahabad. Who fills that vacancy? That is Krishnan. Raman tries to push Bhava into that vacancy created by Meghnad Saha. Bhava didn't take it, but eventually it is Krishnan who goes there. So the school is already there. So Krishnan had set up a school of magnetochemistry at Dhaka first. Okay, then he comes back and so on. He moves as a professor and then in 42. And the students of Krishnan, Kundan Singh Singhvi. Singhvi was at TIFR. Singhvi was the head of the theory group, both at TIFR and TIS. So Singhvi, after doing MSc for a while, was a temporary lecturer in Delhi University, courtesy Kothari, but then he goes abroad and comes back to TIFR as a faculty. Head of the theory group, both for BRC and TIS. And then Ajit Ram Verma. Ajit Ram Verma also was Krishnan's student. And Ajit Ram Verma, the famous Ajit Ram Verma, who was director of NPL for donkey's years. Harish Chandra was also a student of Krishnan. And he was dispatched to work with Bhava in August of 43. Okay. And when Baba moves to Bombay, he sent him to work with Dirac. Govind's Roop was also from the same lineage. K.P. Sinha, who just passed away recently, he was the theorist at IISc for a very, very long time. S.K. Joshi okay, was also at Allahabad, and he was a student of Krishnan and not, he was a student of Kedareshwar Banerjee. Kedareshwar Banerjee was a student of Raman at Calcutta. So after Krishnan, this guy is the head of Allahabad. Krishnan, head of Allahabad, Kedareshwar Banerjee also head of Allahabad. So all these people are lineage of that. So, okay, so now let's leave little bit of Calcutta and the things came out of the Calcutta. Okay. Move on to some other things. Aligarh Muslim. Aligarh Muslim University, Sir Syed Ahmed. He set up a college as early as 1870s. But in that, no science teaching was there for a very long time. So there's college called Mohammedan Anglo College. Okay, they get their first science teacher in 1908 in the form of a young chemist, H.B. Dunnicliffe. So this is a private college, but when they employ science teachers, they are also employing Englishmen as a science teacher. So Dunnicliffe is selected for Indian Education Service by the British England. So this guy is on deputation to this college, this MBO college. So he sets up their physics and chemistry in 1908. From here, he moves to Khalsa College Amritsar in 1912. This is a college set up by SGPC, Shiromani Gurdwara of the community. They also want to set up a science department, whom they get this English on deputation for a few years to set this down. So Aligarh Muslim actually university happened only in 1990, but the college had set up this tradition. So then there's, along with Dunnicliffe as a chemist, they are also employed Wali Muhammad as a physicist. Wali Muhammad had done his PhD under J.J. Thomson. So you see the kind of science teachers that they had in the beginning, they are good. So the quality, there is no problem. So this guy remains head of the department till 12. Then he moves to establish physics department of Lucknow University when the Lucknow University is established in 1922. Okay, so this is how the new universities will get experienced people. They have done their stint somewhere else. So this guy was assistant professor there, and now he's a professor there. Then, so who fills up this guy's place? F.D. Murad becomes the head of the Aligarh Muslim University once it is established in 1920. So AMU, when it becomes the university, in addition to Murad, they had consulted Einstein for a professorship there. Einstein sent German Rudolf Samuel, a spectroscopist, to Aligarh Muslim. So this is how their spectroscopy department is set up. And this guy is joined by R.K. Asundi. R.K. Asundi is a famous spectroscopist of India. He worked in atomic energy for donkeys years after it.
Yes,
Same Asundi. Asundi starts his stint from Wilson College, Bombay. He starts from Wilson College, okay, and long story, and then he is at AMU, from AMU to BHU, BHU to BRC, set up the spectroscopy division of this thing. And Asundi is the guy whom Baba gives the charge of initiating this annual nuclear physics symposium, low energy nuclear physics. He is also the first head of the board of research in nuclear, BRS. So, all very fascinating things, but all right. So, more of AMU. So there is this guy, Rafi Muhammad Chaudhry, who was a PhD student along with Baba at Cambridge. So this guy was an alumnus of Aligarh Muslim University. He comes back, okay, to work at Islamia College in Lahore first, and then shifts to Aligarh Muslim University in 1930. 44, he goes back to UK on an invitation of Mark Ali Frank. Baba has also written papers along with Mark Ali Frank. Okay, so this guy is there. This chap, when Kichlu moves from Lahore to Delhi after the partition, Chaudhry moves and fills up the Kichlu's position at Lahore. because everybody has left, Hindus have left Lahore, so we have to fill up for this. And this guy goes on to be the second chairman of Pakistan Atomic Energy. The first chairman of Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission was also a student of Rutherford, Nazir Ahmed, who had done PhD with Rutherford in 1926. And all his life he worked in Cotton Research Institute in Bombay. After the partition, he immigrated to Pakistan and became the chairman of the Pakistan Atomic Energy. So, after independence, AMU is all khali because everybody has left. So, Zakir Hussain becomes the VC and he inducts Pyara Singh Gill, who was a professor with first experimental physics professor at the IFR was Pyara Singh Gill, the cosmic physicist who had come from Lahore, who was a student of Compton at Chicago. So this Pyara Singh Gill is the one who rebuilds the physics department at Aligarh after the partition. Then Aligarh also, Pucha Venkateshwarlu had obtained his PhD under Asundi when he was at BHU, and he is now joined Aligarh in 54 to reinitiate the spectroscopy group, which was once manned by Rudolf Samuel and Asundi. So Pucha Venkateshwarlu is there. So when the IIT Kanpur comes up, Pucha Venkateshwarlu is the professor at IIT Kanpur. Okay, just as Ramsheshan goes to IIT Madras as a professor at IIT Kanpur as this Pucha Venkateshwarlu as professor at IIT. So, fine. So Malviya's PhD. Okay, so Malviya wanted Raman, he doesn't get Raman. So at Raman's recommendation, he gets the topper of Allahabad University, N.K. Sethi, as the first teacher of physics. And sends him this N.K. Sethi to work with Raman for his PhD. Okay, so this is that N.K. Sethi. N.K. is a very talented guy. He wrote the physics book with BSc and MSc in Hindi for the first time when he was a professor at Harvard. His son is P.K. Sethi, who figures in that list of 40 scientists. He is the Jaipur footman of India. He was a doctor. P.K. Sethi is his son, N.K. Sethi's son. So anyway, then Sogani also was a student of the. So Malviya imports him also as a faculty. Then famous Dasnacharya of BHU, whose son B.A. Dasnacharya was in BRC. His father was also at BHU, and this guy had done his PhD with one Nobel laureate and postdoc with another Nobel laureate before Malviya gets him as a professor of. This guy was brilliant experimentalist. He laid the tradition of world-class experimental research at BHU. Dasnacharya's father. Okay, then of course V.V. Narlikar. Malviya had employed Sarvanaman Chawla to create the School of Mathematics, but Chawla was pulled out by B. Radhakrishnan to Voltaire. So there was no mathematician left in this thing. So Malviya got V.V. Narlikar from England. He had gone on a trip to England to hunt for faculty. He found V.V. Narlikar was working with Addington, and he was a wrangler. He had topped the maths typos. So he told him, whatever you have to learn from the Englishman, you have learned it, you come. He made him professor at head and dragged him from England as a professor at head at BHU. So this is Narlikar, and then Asundi moved, as I told you, from Aligarh to BHU in 39. And then so now Wilson College. So Wilson College, okay, was set up by someone who was actually training in physics and maths as early as 1932. But he didn't do much. He set up the college. So the first chap to do things was this Dr. McInchen, who succeeded Wilson in 75. He set up the physics teaching laboratory. He had also studied in Botchem, which is awesome. Okay. So chemistry department at Wilson College is the oldest science department of Bombay. I didn't know this. T.N. Gajjar, who is a contemporary of Praful Chandra Ray, Alembic, there is a chemical company, right? Set up by T.N. Gajjar. It's the same Gajjar. So this guy is the one who is a chemistry. Then Institute of Science came up in Bombay and this thing. And this A.R. Norman, who was the head chemistry department at Vincent College at this. And he is a physical chemist, okay, who did PhD both in physics and chemistry. Okay, and Asundi was the student of Norman. And the first MSc thesis came out of this chemistry department of Vincent College in 1970. Then Asundi did it in 71. Then Wilson College physics tradition is H.J. Taylor. If you read the history of TIFR, H.J. Taylor was the first person who Ava offered professor and experimental. He was a cosmic ray physicist who used to do emulsion research at Wilson College in 1930s. After he did his PhD, okay, from England on a study leave. Okay, he came back in 1935 and commenced the cosmic rays. So Baba, when he came to set up TIFR, Taylor was there, available to him. He asked Taylor to join TIFR, he said no. So he remained there, but he was an adjunct professor at TIFR. So he is the one who used to scout around students of Baba all over the country, because he was plugged into the college education in this. So he knew what questions to ask, which student is good, what student is bad. So Taylor is the one who brought David Lal. Taylor is the one who recruited Yashpal. All these young people were interviewed by H.J. Taylor on behalf of Baba.
Is that Englishman?
Yeah, he was English. H.J. Taylor eventually, went away from him to Scottish College, Calcutta, and later on served also as Vice Chancellor of University of Guwahati. Huh? Yeah, radiation physics guy. All the BRC's radiation physics guys, K.G. Vora. Very celebrated guy in BRC, K.G. Vora. He did his PhD with Taylor in Wilson College. Because he was a refugee who came from Pakistan, he had nothing to do, whatever Taylor asked him to do. And after he did his PhD, he plugged him to Baba. He told him, this guy is good, you take it. Baba gave him the responsibility of designing all the radiation, atomic energy establishment. Okay, Madras. Okay, so Madras had this first professor of mathematics was Powell. Wilson was appointed physics professor as early as 1874. Then there is this famous R.L. Johns, professor of physics in 1889. And Raman and his nephew, they were all part of this presidency college. Raman graduated in 1906, Chandra got his MSc in 1928. Second college where good science and mathematics happened is Madras Christian College. It was an intermediate college up to 1866, then a BA college in 1868. And this Dr. Miller took this college to great heights in 30 years. And this college is the one to first introduce what we call as NEP, 4 years of graduation. So these guys at that time, the BA was 2 years, MA was 2 years. So this guy, this college introduced what is called an honors course in a given subject. So you study a BA, you do BA in 3 years. 2 years is pass course BA. If you do a BA for 3 years honors, then you specialize in a subject. So you don't have to do an MA later on. You have learned whatever you learned up to MA, you do some research in the 3rd year, and now you are trained as a researcher to go and do for PhD. So this 3 years, 2 plus 1 year business is first introduced by the Madras Christian College. And this was copied by Lahore in the form of honors schools from 1991. So Lahore practiced it till 47. After a partition, Punjab University in India practiced it even till very recently. Madras discontinued it in 1961. But Chandigarh continued, and this new education policy is very easy for Chandigarh to implement. Because they already have this tradition of the 1 year extra.
And it went to Delhi results.
But Delhi University had a different way of honors. It was not one extra years. It was not, masters is not 1 year after.
Master was 2 years,
Masters was 2 years.
but honors was 3 years.
Honors was 3 years. Chandigarh, the honors was 4 years. So anyway, this is honor school system of Punjab University, 3+1. 3 years you do BSc after class 12, and then MA is only 1. So this was introduced in 1990. The teaching in honor school shall consist as discussion between teacher and student, guidance in reading and criticism of written and practical work. It shall exclude the use of textbooks, and no things should not be memorized like this. This was stated in 1930, 1990. Okay, and then the study cliff. Okay. So this anyway I have covered. So these are the teachers at Lahore. I got list of all of them. This is all not interesting from your point of view, but only thing interesting is that there was something called a 3 years technical chemistry course in FC College, Lahore. FC College was an American missionary college. There they introduced this technical chemistry. And this technical chemistry eventually transformed into chemical engineering in the University of India. It starts off as a technical chemistry course practiced in a former Christian college, which was an American missionary college, where the teachers used to come from Princeton.
Benade was also teaching in FC College.
Yeah. Benade did his PhD under K.H. Compton, the elder brother of A.H. Compton. K.H. Compton went on to be president of MIT.
He assisted Compton in study of concentration.
Yeah. So the point is that all these teachers, European teachers, they were good. It's not a quality of teachers was very, very high. But it's only the native teachers, when their students became researchers, then the state reaction really starts. And that happened only after 1920s.
Arun, I want to ask you, since you have done so much research on this, in Compton's studies of concentration, you mentioned Benade and one Professor Sharma from Allahabad. Have you come across this?
So Sharma, I have not come. I come from Nadir Ahmed and Bhatnagar.
But Sharma,
Sharma was not at Lahore.
no,
You are
no,
saying-
no, Sharma was at Allahabad,
Allahabad.
but his details are not available.
The previous list, Mera and followed by many teachers.
Uh-huh.
The previous list, Mera and followed by many teachers.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Good.
Yeah, followed by Mr. teachers.
So Belaram taught you.
FC College and then Aulu. They both.
FC Aulat was a student of FC Aulat was a mathematician. FC Aulat trained in number theory with Saradaman Chawla. FC Aulat accidentally came in contact with D.S. Kothari when D.S. Kothari lived in Lahore for 1 year.
Yeah.
And Kothari pulled him out to do physics, statistical physics with him.
He taught us separate.
And then when Kothari became professor and head, he took Aulak away from Punjab to Delhi in the physics department to teach mathematical physics. For this Kothari he also took R.P. Bhabha, who was a pure mathematician, a Chawla student who was not getting any job in spite of getting 600 out of 600 in mathematics, a record which Kalam could not break. Every other record Kalam had broken off Bhabha, but 600 out of 600 cannot be better. Salam also was a student of Chawla. He was a mathematician.
Abdul Salam.
So this is Kichlu for you, photograph of Kichlu. And this guy, after doing theory with Saha takes him to America to see how Americans teach physics. Okay, he took him along. Okay, he comes back, he sets up an experimental lab in his house, conducted in his personal laboratory at home. He had glass apparatus, discharge tubes, this, that, everything at home. He never married like Baba. He was a sister all his life. The Department of Physics was smoothly run, dedicated and well respected for teaching, training and applied research in physics. This is what Kichlu used to. Okay, and this is extracted from a book. Okay, then Kichlu, as I told you, 47, Kothari pulls them on. Kothari was with him, then they both students of Saha. This guy is in great trouble because partition will happen. So, January of 47, he moves from Lahore to Delhi as a teacher in the physics department. That is why I was in. So, anyway, this so Kichlu served as the second director of NPL after K.S. Krishna. And after retirement from NPL, he set up an optical instrument firm. Modi will be very happy. Teacher entrepreneurs. So this is a book, Research School of Number Theory in India. Second school of number theory is Punjab School of Research in Number Theory. Who set this up? Sarvadaman Chawla. And this, I got this put up in the university. Well, I didn't know him. Once I came to know him, I got this thing put up. I got this International Guest House of Punjab University named after him.
The reason for use.
Because Wikipedia says British born American mathematician of Indian origin. He is British born because his father was on study leave when he was born in London. Gopal Singh Chawla was on study leave when the teachers were allowed to go on study. So he was born in India. So he grew as a great researcher in India. Partition of India, he had no job. So he lands up in Princeton on his Indian salary and some scholarship. And then he never returned. He remained at Pennsylvania State University as a research professor of law. Okay. And he has all these famous students. Everybody has forgotten about him in Punjab. So I got this put up and thought you also made it after him. Really? London born, British born, blah, blah. And everybody was his student. This guy wrote 350 papers in mathematics. So, seen in India, this was the kind of physicists and where they were in 1939 when Baba is taught in IISc Bangalore. So these are the contemporaries of Baba in 1939. Vikram Sarabhai, of course, was a student, but the rest of them are his contemporaries, elder to him, established physicists in India at that time. So, what do they do? Okay. Everybody has plans. Second World War will end. There will be opportunities. Saha is planning this institute. Baba has decided after 42, when his father passes away, that he will also propose this new institute once he is offered a professorship at the Baba Trust. So each one of them is planning something grand for themselves after the war would end. So Saha gets all these people together, okay, for a conference in Calcutta, in the backdrop of CSIR having been created in 1932. War starts. British, who are resisting to create CSIR by that time, decide to create a CSIR. They pick up Bhatnagar from Lahore to create Board of Scientific and Industrial Research for a period of 2 years. Initially, you don't know how long the war will. So initially, it is for 2 years. So Bhatnagar moves from Lahore to Calcutta on 1st of April 1940. They gave him 5 lakh rupees per year. And this 5 lakh rupees is supposed to aid the war efforts of the British. So this 5 lakh rupees is only for defense related research. And they form these committees how to distribute that 5 lakh rupees that they have. So Saha, Mitra, Jesse, Coach, they are all in this committee. 5 lakh rupees is what that we have. But Nagar was in a test laboratory in Calcutta, which was a combined lab for physics and chemistry. But Nagar proposes that after the war, we will have a physics lab separate from the chemistry. That is the start of the proposal for a national physical laboratory, national chemical level. The word nationalism, the British had the NPL in England. So even though whether we will get the independence or not, you have an NPL equivalent in Delhi. There is an NCL equivalent in India. So all this is how it starts. So September of 42, BSIR transforms to CSIR, and CSIR is registered as a society on this date. Because 2 years are ended, war is still not over, so now the CSIR comes into being. Then September of 43, J.C. Ghosh is the director of IISc Bangalore after Raman. So this guy is also the president of the National Institute of Sciences. All the scientists get together, including Baba, okay, to discuss post-war organization of scientific research in India. Not they are discussing what they happen. If they get together, all of them, everybody is assigned some topic. So they come prepared, they have to make a presentation. Proceedings of that symposium are brought out, resolutions are passed, and now you have to influence the colonial government that they should listen to. So this Saha has a brilliant plan. He tells Bhatnagar to call A.V. Hill, who was a British MP, who was the secretary of the Royal Society, who had organized the cooperation between England and America for Second World War of cooperation. So A.V. Hill is imported to India on the pretext that Bhabha has not signed on the register of the Royal Society. Bhabha got FRS in 41. Krishnan got FRS in 40, but Nagar got FRS in 43. They have not visited England and signed on that register. So one sheet from that register is brought in, and in a special ceremony in Delhi, they are supposed to sign. But that sheet is brought by A.V. So this A.V. Hill comes on that pretext, stays in India for 4 months, travels all across India, listens to the soft stories of all the Indian scientists, gets convinced that what they are proposing is necessary for survival of India as an entity independent of England, at least financially, not politically. So this is that 24, the papers that is the thing. Baba was allotted the topic, allocation of scientific research to the university. This is Baba's domain. Okay. The rest, everybody has a domain, okay. Basic principles of organization. So, but Nagar is organization of scientific and industrial research. Everybody has it. So all this is written. Okay. So this is Baba's presentation. Very interesting. He says, long-term research would appear in general best suited for the universities or in special institutes attached to the university. Here is a special institute attached to the university. Okay. Then he says, no country which wishes to play a leading part in the world can afford to neglect pure or long-term research. Long-term research, okay, then it says there is no genuine knowledge of the universe that is not potentially useful for them. Long-term research should include pure mathematics. So all these are, this is what Bhabha in September of 1943, 1 month after he had written a letter to G.R.D. Tata, August of 40, where he shares his lofty idea of Tata and Tata. So this is, okay, so this is A.V. Hill and Bhatnagar sitting on the veranda of his house in Delhi. So this guy stayed in his house. And he had no hesitation in staying in his house, because when he was a student of Cambridge, his housemate was S.L. Bhatia. S.L. Bhatia came back to India, was a doctor. He came back to India and was serving in the Indian military. He was a doctor in the Indian military. He was posted in Bombay only most of the time. Later on, he shifted to Bangalore. So this S.L. Bhatia used to feed everything to A.V. Hill as all his life. There is a huge correspondence between S.L. Bhatia and A.V. Hill. So this guy was already, Indophile. Lover, apparently for the Indian. There is a museum on medical history of India, which S.L. Bhatia created. It's in Bangalore. I want to go and visit that once. Okay. This S.L. Bhatia is a very important role in having this A.V. Hill come to India. It is not Bhatnagar's efforts alone that he came. He came because this S.L. Bhatia was all the time. He was the enabler. So, okay, so now they have written a longish report, but how to make that long report be listened to by the Englishman? He makes his own report, scientific research in India, and that remains a secret for some time. Then cleverly makes a summary of that report and puts a 4-page report in the Nature. Maybe so that everybody knows what he is saying. So these are the recommendations of the A.V. Hills. Create an overseas scholarship scheme. Create a super specialty hospital like AIMS. Monitor population data. That is why this population. J.R.D. Tata created this population university in Jammu. That is a part of this recommendation. Agriculture is India's most important industry. And enhance synergy between CSR and industrial housing. India needs first quality brains trained in atmosphere of original research and practical experience. Create IITs. Okay. Reduce the gap in salaries of civil servants and researchers to attract the best minds for academics. Support universities as scientific education is the fundamental basis of scientific progress. Provide financial assistance to science academies of India and professional bodies. Facilitate institutes like ISCS, Bose Institute, Tata Memorial Hospital. Everything is covered. A.V. Hill, disaster lies ahead if India's industrial development and national welfare are not immediately attended. And this is October 29, 1944. Okay. Sergeant English. So the UGC, what should the UGC do? Financial grants should be given to the block grant, blah, blah, blah. So whatever the UGC has to do, this is also 40 foot. Kothari as the chairperson takes 20 years to implement. And these are the first directors, 6 directors are faculty. All students of Raman or grand or students of Krishna or Saha. Students and grad students of Saha and Raman are the 6 directors, first 6 directors of it.
I have met all of them. I have met all of them.
So then, this Baba story we all know. Okay. So Baba, I have told you all. Baba sent this proposal, says CSR should give small fraction of the money to TIFR. Baba wanted TIFR to be a small entity to start with. He was only asking 10% of the money which was to be spent in it. Okay, but after independence, how things turn, we all know. Okay. So this is again how TIFR has progressed. So Baba creates this atomic research committee after the war. Bhatnagar creates this with Baba as the chairman. Atomic Energy Act comes in 48. Okay, and then Baba meets Chandrasekharan at Princeton, brings him along with that 40 TIFR. Ramanna joins in 49. Peters arrived in 51. K.G. Ramanathan arrived in 53. And Menon arrived in 55. Okay. So these are this kind of students. Baba recruited Sitaram and Daniel came first, then Ram Prakash and Kirikantan, then Lal and Yashpal, Singhvi, Vijayaraghavan and George Sudarshan came together in the year 51, Anika came 52, Nirmati 53, Venkataraman. So So this is this photograph, all of you know, this is these four with the thing. Atomic energy establishment. The TIFR buildings were inaugurated on 1st January 1954. Same very visit, atomic energy establishment Tropic gets done on January 3. Okay, Department of Atomic Energy happens later in August of 54. Okay, once this happens, Apsara reactor plan. Apsara reactor gets going in 56. As soon as Apsara is successful, Baba is ready with his plan to create trainings because a lot more has to be. So Ramana is given the charge of training. So this is all a training school now. Atomic Energy Establishment Tropic. Nehru inaugurates on 20th January 57. 4 months after the Apsara. Okay, then Ramana does this. So this carrier advancement scheme, Baba installs it for the PRC training school officer, and the same career advancement scheme is made available to academics in TIFR because a lot of training school people were being recruited to TIFR.
Current situation, at that time, then could graduate at a guest post.
Yeah,
That way. Just so even now,
you are the
yeah. We have some class to guested. Guested officer got divided.
no, but the BRC career profile is better than the IAS officer. In salary term. Okay. So that Baba 62 war, even before the 62 war, Baba had got the space research going, August of 61. Space research and peaceful uses of outer space. He writes the proposal to Nehru. This INCOSPAR is created in February of 62. War happens in August of 62. And only then this ECI comes into. A.S. Rao was inducted by Baba in back for experimental programs from Stanford as early as 1946. In the same year, Rao, who was in charge of all reactors, the same, and same year, Rao is now known as the CMD of Electronics Corporation. This is Government Science Policy Resolution by Baba, okay, 58. And this is the defense research by Kothari and Bhagwantam, one after the other. The Kothari is actually Baba's contemporary at Cambridge. He is the synergy that they were together as young people in Cambridge doing PhD together. That is how there was never a conflict. It is that personal chemistry which mattered so much. Because this is the kind of summary that I have told you everything. I have taken too long. Thank you.
Overview of the entire piece. Read all this fantastic stuff. I just flew away. Anybody has any questions?
I was pretty. It too.
My usual is split into 3 sections. Thank you very much.
The last thing is also very unique and he was a great entrepreneur. Of his career in Canada, he has one company.
These are the laboratories.
And he didn't get along well at all.
Yeah, he and Baba were
Just thought and it was also very very
I'm sorry we are late, but please do come for the tea.
Yeah, he got married away.
No, Friday evening, Friday afternoon.
I knew maybe much yes.
So when did Mars came? So you talked about few universities,
So this is
but at some point we went for Mars.
after India.
So immediately after independence, what is that?